got ourselves a brand new pit bike, and this one is supposedly even cheaper than the Tudio. First impressions, it is a very good looking bike. Like, check out these plastics. It looks closer to an RTR than it does a Tudio, which is crazy for 1,300 bucks. Here's everything that came in the package, starting with the front wheel. This is a 14-inch wheel with a knobby tire on there. Size is 60, 114. Of course, it came with a pit bike style rotor. Right side peg looks similar to what you would see on an ETM RTR. Handlebar with a decent rise on there. This is a bar pad. 2 zip ties to secure this onto the handlebar. Handlebar mounts, Sur-Ron style grip, 2 keys, front fender, front number plate, some vinyl numbers. Comment below what number you think I should put on this bike. LED headlight. Here's what the connector looks like. And the charger. This is a 5 amp charger. 54.6 volts, since this is a 48 volt battery. My bike came with the battery installed on there. I saw a few of the earlier reviewers having it come separately from the bike, so I'm glad that it all comes together now, just simplifies things. What I really like so far is the fact that this bike comes with a Sur-Ron style throttle. Seems like they really paid attention to the market. A lot of Tudio owners would replace the original throttle that came with their bike with a Sur-Ron style throttle. I think that's around 50, 60 bucks. This is what a stock Tudio Soleil throttle looks like. So yeah, that's one less thing that you have to upgrade on this bike. So you can see these are not mountain bike style brakes. It's actually a pit bike brake that uses dot fluid, and it's mounted on a sliding caliper bracket. Actually, you know what? It's probably a good idea to plug the headlight in now. These 2 posts at the bottom of the number plate go into these 2 holes on top of the front fender. Brake hose goes in this hook. Just press the number plate into the fender. And you're going to mount the headlight bracket on top of the number plate bracket. Here's a closer look at how everything is mounted. Okay, I think this order makes a lot more sense. Display, brake lever, and then the light switch. The longer wheel spacer goes on the brake caliper side, and then the shorter one goes on the other. Just adding a little bit of multi-purpose grease on the center of the front axle, just to reduce any friction up front. There it is, guys. This is the IN10 by Yozma. This is their 48 volt, 2600 watt electric dirt bike that's supposed to compete with the entry level category. I'm gonna hook this thing up to the charger for a few hours, then we'll go over all of the features and take this thing out for the first time. If you wanna get more information on the Yozma IN10, I'll have a link to their website in the description below. You can also get yourself 5% off this bike by using discount code PATOutdoors. Here it is, all charged and ready to go. But before we take this thing out, I do want to look over the features and do a little bit of poking around. So like the other pit bikes in this price category, it's got a 14-inch front wheel, 12-inch rear, 2.5-inch tire up front, 3-inch rear. It's got a 60-tooth 420 rear sprocket, 420 chain, kind of similar to a Tudio Soleil. And it appears to have the same exact bolt pattern, so it's giving me ideas for future modifications. I really like how the plastics look on this. Though I'm not sure how scratch resistant this satin finish is going to be long term. It's got a nitrogen filled rear shock, hydraulic front fork. The controller's mounted right on the front side of the frame. Appears to be a far driver. Skid plate at the bottom. Seems to be made out of some really thick plastic. Headlight looks really bright. We'll see how the pattern looks at night. The display is really bright and colorful. Might look a little bit funky with my phone camera, but what's funny about this bike is when you turn it on initially, it says pedal assist or PAS 0 and throttle doesn't work, which is kind of similar to like some class 2, class 3 e-bikes, but there are no pedals on this thing. So what are they expecting you to do? For the throttle to work, you just switch to mode 1. There are 3 different power levels. 3 is going to be the fastest. 1 is going to be the slowest. I'm going to look into the controller settings to see if I can just completely get rid of mode 0 since it doesn't seem to really make sense to me. Turn the headlight on and off, just a switch over here. Right brake lever is for the front, left brake lever is for the rear. It's set up like the bigger e-motos. To access the battery, you actually have to use the key, but you just turn clockwise, then it unlatches this lock on the back. You just swing up, and now we have access to the 48 volt 23 amp hour battery. So this is a little bigger than the Tudio. I believe the Soleil has a 21 amp hour battery. Same thing with the Valtinzo EM5, which is a pretty similar looking bike, but it doesn't come with a headlight and it has like orange wheels and smaller battery. I believe the battery on this thing is very similar as far as dimensions to the Tudio battery. So I might experiment with some aftermarket higher voltage options on this in the very near future. But the factory battery has a discharge current of 60 amps. So that is a little bit lower than I thought it would. The listing mentioned a sine wave controller with an 80 amp current limit. Let's actually pull this battery out and do some poking around. Kind of just want to get a better idea of the components on this bike. But from what I'm seeing so far, it seems like the battery can both be a strong point and a weak point. It is a little bit larger than the batteries that come on other bikes in this price range, which means this should have a little bit more range. Yozma is claiming 53 miles per charge, but for a battery this size, I think a more realistic expectation would be something like 25 miles, unless you're cruising at like 10 miles per hour on mode 1. And with a max power output of 60 amps, I don't really think you can tune the stock controller past a little over 2800 watts. So the battery does seem to be the limiting factor as far as making power with the stock components. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is you could charge the battery off the bike or on the bike. When this connector is on the battery, there's this other XT60 connector that's going to a charge port on the right side of the frame. Actually, now that we have the battery out, the size looks completely different than I thought it would be. So this is a little over 10 inches tall, 7 inches wide, and a little over 5 1/4 thick. So 10 by 7 by 5 1/4. I kind of want to pull all this apart and get a closer look at the controller to see if it's similar to this other one that I have laying around. But I want to get to riding soon, so we're just going to save that for another day. Though the dimensions and the stamping, at least from the bottom side, look identical. This is meant for an encoder motor though. I'm really hoping that this bike came with a hall sensor one, because that means I will have a lot more options to just swap this controller out and crank the power on the motor. Speaking of which, let's take these covers off and get a closer look at the motor. I think these covers just pop off. Yeah, there's just 3 tabs on the back side and some rubber grommets on the frame. But here's a closer look at the motor that's in there. So from the factory, it comes with an 11-tooth front sprocket. Let's look at the motor from the other side to see if there's any sort of stampings. YB48V50. Doesn't really look like any motor I've seen in the past. Wonder if there's a QS motor that's gonna be a direct swap with this. I was talking with Michael Wright on Instagram, who has a Valtinzu, and he mentioned I could potentially fit a QS 120 motor on this bike. And I think Soshin is working on a direct replacement as well. But before we get carried away with potential upgrades in the future, let's put this bike back together and at least ride it for the first time without any sort of modifications. Ah, damn. I was really hoping that the 76 volt electro battery that I have laying around could fit in one of these bikes. You know what? Could I work with a Sur-Ron battery? Seems to have decent spacing all around. But we're definitely gonna have to cut a section of the seat. Let me know if this is a future project you guys would like to see. Well, the sun's starting to come up, so we'll test out the headlight on another day. Let's test out the top speed in the different modes. So mode 1, looks like it tops off at 21, 22 miles per hour. And then on mode 2, it definitely starts picking up speed quite a bit. Looking like 31.4 miles per hour. You know what, before we test out mode 3, let's see if the speedometer is even accurate. Oh shoot, I completely forgot to check the tire pressure. The rear is definitely super low. Let's head back to the house and take care of that real quick, and then we'll go back out. My bad, guys. Still human, still make mistakes. I was just too excited to take this thing out. Completely forgot. Man, the rear tire was at like 8 PSI. Well, the front was already at 28. Okay, that feels a lot better now. Looks like the top speed with a 180-pound adult rider is 34 miles per hour. I could see this going 40 miles per hour if the rider was maybe like 120, 130 pounds. But let's be real here. I'm definitely not the only adult that's gonna buy this. Ah, dang, sprinklers are out. It's really smooth, considering it has knobby tires on there. Suspension's pretty comfortable on the street. But brakes feel really solid already. I haven't even bedded them in yet. How could you beat this for 1,300 bucks? Electric dirt bikes, I feel like, have come such a long way. Just 2 years ago, the thing to do would be to purchase a Razor MX500 or MX650 and then spend like $800 modding it so it'll go 40 miles per hour. But after you do all that, you'll still have cable brakes and spring suspension. Nowadays, you can just buy a bike like this. It already have a larger wheel set, more power, hydraulic suspension, and hydraulic brakes. Doesn't handle too bad off-road either.
Like taking this out of the box and being able to go this fast and having this much fun. I am excited to start modifying this thing though and cranking up the voltage, changing the controller settings and seeing what we could really do with this long term. I think this is an insane value in compared to building up a razor from scratch. Certainly saves a lot of time and effort. This is a lot of bike for $1,300. Though that is the pre-release price, I'm not sure what the price is going to be after September. Hopefully it's still under $1,500. Either way, you could still get 5% off using discount code PATOutdoors. If you guys enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you like this kind of content, want to keep up with some of my projects, such as the IN10, my Tudio, my Razor, my RTR, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn your bell notification on. But this is going to be it for today. Thank you for watching.